Why, hello, everyone. This is Daniel Hall, and welcome to this very special and exclusive training. And I am very pleased that you are here because today I have a very special guest that I believe is going to show you some really next level things that you need to know to get really good reviews for your books. And hint, it starts with a good book. And second, the importance of actually getting awards for your books. Okay, so I'm really excited about this because this is the slight edge that you need in your publishing and authoring efforts, and it's the edge that many, probably by far most other authors and publishers do not have. So I'm so pleased that you've decided to tune in, whether you're listening to this contemporaneously as we make it live or later. It's really going to be excellent information. So let me give you a bit of background on today's guest. Her name is Victoria Sutherland, and she is known internationally in the publishing community as the publisher and founder of Foreword Reviews magazine. For over 16 years, Foreword Reviews continues to be the only trade journal devoted exclusively to you, okay? Independent authors, independent publishers. In addition, it is a quarterly print journal. Foreword provides other marketing services for publishers, including Clarion, which is a fee for review service, Foreword This Week, which is a weekly e-newsletter, and title representation at international book fairs, and the recently rebranded Indie Fab Book of the Year Awards program. Now, for 5 years, she has also published Spirituality and Health, a consumer magazine serving over 100,000 readers and spirituality and health books in indie presses, which produced 5 titles annually. Foreword is headquartered in the former Cigar Box Factory. This is cool. A landmark building on the Boardman River in Traverse City, Michigan. She and her business partner and husband renovated it into a loft residence, office, and event space. So, with that, I want to bring on my very special guest, Victoria Sutherland. Victoria, welcome to the interview. I really appreciate it. And let's get started. Can you give a little bit of background? I just gave a little bit of a bio of you and the Foreword Reviews magazine, but can you give folks kind of why number one, this magazine is important for them, and kind of give a broader view as to why you started it in the first place.
Okay. Thanks, Dan, for having me join you today. I'm pleased to be here. About 16 years ago, I was working for a book packager who bought a publication called Small Press Magazine from a small group, a couple in Rhode Island, and they were originally a read company that was Publishers Weekly's little sister, covering independent presses. It was a quarterly, and I just felt like they were not going in a direction that was geared toward booksellers and librarians who needed a tool to find good information about great books from independent presses. The trade magazines that were going gangbusters 16 years ago were Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, and School Library Journal, but they weren't paying any attention to independent presses. And for the record, independent presses are defined in our world as anybody from a print-on-demand one-book publisher in their lifetime to Oxford University Press, who does 300 titles a year, and everybody in between. So when we first started the magazine, about 50,000 titles were coming from the independent press sector, and now, as many of you probably know, over 1 million titles are being published every year. And how do you create any noise for your book in that chaos is one of the reasons why we put Foreword Reviews together. Giving them an advertising vehicle as well as some media coverage that was taken seriously by booksellers and librarians was important to getting recognition for their titles.
So let me just sort of pick up with this idea, because this is a really important thing that the little nugget you just left behind, which is the fact that in order to be taken seriously as a book or as an author, it really is incumbent upon you to get as much good press, and particularly as much like legitimate good reviews for your book as possible, correct?
Correct. I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. The internet, of course, and ebooks are really flattening the playing field, leveling the playing field quite a bit. But the fact remains that you have to put out a good book, have it packaged well, copy edited, and grammatically, the content be excellent, as well as get it out into the marketplace. And helping you do that are curation places like Foreword to get it recognized.
All right, so we promised folks some insights on how to not only get reviews with Foreword Reviews and so forth, but also how to get and the importance of getting book awards for your book. So let's tackle, since we're started with the review aspect of it, let's talk about how people should approach getting good reviews, not just with your magazine, but with all media. Can you give us some insights with regard to that?
Sure. Foreword is a pre-publication review journal, which means that the books included in our review section are close to or prior to publication date. And the reason we do that is, there are a couple of reasons why we do that. One, it helps us qualify. We're looking for every reason we can to say no to one of the thousands of books that come into our magazine. And when we have a tight deadline to the pre-publication date, that helps us. Secondly, librarians in particular, and booksellers the same, want advance information about books that are being published. Librarians will not order a book for their sites or their companies without a patron request or a review attached to the purchase order, because they're dealing with public money. So a review is super important to an independent press in advance. We also know that independent presses like to have, and all books like to have the option to have on the back cover of the book notation from somebody like Foreword or Publishers Weekly or Library Journal. So getting us that information in your book in manuscript form or advanced review copy, which is also referred to as ARCs, an acronym, will let us read the book and give it a review in plenty of time for you to get it on your back cover before it gets published.
Okay,
wholesalers.
So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. The next step of the process with a trade review magazine like Foreword, Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, School Library Journal is that we license our reviews to the wholesale community in the book publishing industry, which is Ingram, Baker & Taylor, Bowker's Books and Print, EBSCO, Cengage, all of those databases where booksellers and librarians go shopping for books. They are especially, reviews are in a special demand, particularly for Foreword reviews, because we cover books that aren't naturally covered by the other publication services. And that sort of leads me into what Foreword looks for in a review book, but you can take this across all levels, and that is we're trying to highlight books that are unusual, that are not going to be covered everywhere else. And indie press is the number one thing. Title, the author has some expertise level. You have, a PhD behind your, a doctor behind your, MD behind your name, or some sort of, professional expertise level. We want to make sure that the copyright page and the table of contents and the other front matter are meeting industry standards, because we're telling booksellers and librarians that your book is a good one, and we have to make sure that we follow up on those promises that we make. If those standards aren't in place, it's says a lot about that your book, the interior of the book, isn't going to be very good either. We want to make sure that there is an inviting, direct, nicely phrased, cliche-free writing. We don't want just the first chapter of the book, which is the one that most people work really hard on, to be the only good part of the book. It's, we'll read through the rest of the, parts here and there before we send the book out to reviewers, to make sure that it's got a good quality throughout. What else?
Well, let me just stop you there, because you've left a bunch of really good stuff, and I just want to make sure that we highlight it for folks. So the first thing that I hear you saying is the fact that the review process in most cases is established and started, initiated before the book is actually published, right?
Correct.
That's the first thing. So in other words, you look at things like galleys and manuscripts and things like this in the first instance.
Do
I have that right? Okay.
We do.
I mean, you're going to have to, right? Because that's all that exists.
Well, and I mean, these time limits are in place also because we expect our reviewers to actually read the book. And so in order to do that, we need to get the book in the office, make a decision about putting it into the magazine, send it to the reviewer, allow them to read the book carefully and with good intention, and then write a good review. Our reviews are 450 words long, and that takes some time. So, I mean, certainly we can do things quickly, but I mean, everybody needs 2 to 3 months in
Okay, and that was actually my next question.
answer.
That was actually my next question: is how far in advance do you want the book, or not? And not just you, Victoria, but
date, so we can give the book.
Right. So how far in advance, Victoria?
It's never too early, is what we like to say. We're a quarterly magazine, so we give a little bit more. We let things get closer to the pub date than usual because it's tough to get a quarterly magazine into our hands early enough. But we also would like not just the manuscript or the ARC, but and a 4-color copy of your cover as well, because the pack comes into play when we make a decision about the review. So we're for the 15th. Our summer issue is expected from the printer today. Which is June, July, August public cover dates, and then we. People's fall list. So that's how far in advance right now. And so, we're going to get to this a little bit later, but the publishing, and this is old school publishing stuff. You have a lot of clients who are ebook publishers and PO, print on demand publishers, and so these time frames are like, the publisher and author taking control of the timing a little bit easier, and we're watching some changes happen in the marketplace that old school magazines like us are trying to adjust to and help the independent presses still get some coverage. So that's why we have an e-letter that will give you an opportunity to get some coverage as well. But in the transition point of old school print magazines, we need the book as far in advance as possible.
Oh, okay. So the next question is, you talked about the importance of industry standards and front matter. Let's talk about what those standards are and how can people determine to make sure that they are living up to those standards and hopefully exceeding those standards.
Mm-hmm. The easiest way for an independent author or publisher to make sure that these are getting met is to go to the bookstore or library and go to the category that their book is being published in and look inside the book to make sure that the table of contents is professional looking, the Library of Congress page is set up properly, is not, it doesn't look like somebody typed it, on a piece of paper and left it hanging there. These standards and formats are all really very important to, making it look like a professional book. The table of contents is also huge.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Book.
Okay.
Quality, packaged book.
Very, very good. Okay, so so what's sort of next? We've made sure that not, and then the other thing I guess you said is not only does the front matter and cover need to be there. By the way, the cover needs to be in color. That's what you prefer anyway.
Right.
But also that the chapter that it's not just the first chapter that's good. It's good all the way through.
Right.
Can you talk about the indicia for determining whether it is going to be good all the way through?
Matt, can you speak to that a little bit? I mean, we're kind of stuck in a weird place in the office, and typically, and I love to go through this example. I watched we get so much mail. He gets his mind that we have 140 books that we're going to be reviewing in the next issue that include 4 feature stories. So I've got to put some books aside for memoir and cookbooks and mystery and nature, but I also have 60 categories that I want to include, reviews in, and so the sorting process begins there. And then he looks at each of the, I'm going to ask the managing editor, Matt.
She's doing a great job, but another thing that we're really aware of is not covering the same publisher over and over again. So if we published you in the summer issue or the fall issue, chances are we won't be covering you in the winter issue just because it's unfair. I mean, there's literally many hundreds of publishers that are in that I'm aware of, and I want to just make sure that we're covering as many good books as possible. I mean, it'd be easy to publish 6 or 8 reviews from Oxford, from Princeton, from Source Books, from all of these great independent publishers, but that's not our job. Our job really is about finding new great authors, new interesting publishers, just publishers that are doing exciting things.
So his question was, how do you get into the book and decide that it's actually going to be a good one?
Yeah, and that's just, I mean, if there's an art to this, it's not an art. I mean, I spend a lot of time with these books. I do look very closely at the front matter. And listen, rest assured, I mean, my job is to discard. I mean, I'm looking at 500 books, 700 books, or 1,000 books to get down to 150. So I will quickly breeze through the front matter. I'll read the first couple pages. I'll flip to, chapter 3, and then check back to the table of contents and make sure that this book is organized well. And then I'll flip to to the index, and and see if that's. And I know a lot of the stuff. If I'm seeing an advanced reader's copy, that index might not be properly set up yet. But I am really, really, really trying to get a good handle on whether these guys know what they're doing, because I don't want to recommend something to a librarian or a bookseller that is not worthy.
Okay.
One other thing to remember is, or to know, is that we may not have done a very good job in the pre-selection process, and our reviewers are instructed to let us know that the book is not of good enough quality to appear in the magazine, and we'll pay them a kill fee, but they might get halfway through it and say, this just isn't really worth recommending. We think you made a mistake, and that's okay with us too.
Right, and essentially, though, what you're doing, Matt, and thank you so much for chiming in. I really, really appreciate that. But essentially, what you're doing is you are looking for things to disqualify the book, because you're getting such a huge number in. And I guess what would be very helpful for viewers is, what sort of things are you really looking for? And you're like, oh, what? I guess the better question is, where do most books fall out? Maybe the top 3 or the top 5, if you could do that, Matt.
Well, it's if somebody's doing a book on Alzheimer, or on a baseball book, or whatever the genre is, whatever the topic is, it's important to know that they've done their research. Is this book, does the world need another book, and why? If so, why? It seems like this topic has been covered over and over and over again. What are you bringing new to the game? Why should I care? And then if I do care, if you've got my interest, I'm going to go check you out. I'm going to read the author bio, which is huge, to see what you've done before. Have you ever written before? Have you ever been published before? Ideally, you're an authority. And then literally, it's just, if I can only do 4 or 5 business books, I'm going to make sure that I've got good diversity in the something for everybody. I mean, entrepreneurs, or somebody who wants to start a business out of their home, or so it's just this awareness all the time to cover as many, just to be as broad as I possibly can, but also knowing, I mean, I want you guys to, I want authors and publishers to teach me something, to let me to recognize trends before they're trends, and to say this is going to be becoming more and more important in the next couple of years, and we're ahead of it. So you need to be ahead of it, and let your readers know.
Okay.
Yeah, helping us do our job better, And one of the things that we haven't mentioned that is nice to appear with a manuscript, or the advanced reading copy, or the galley of a book, is what we call a tip sheet, or a sales sheet, and that is a press release or a sheet of paper that is a succinct summary of all of the things that we quickly look for, which is a 4-color image of the cover, the title and author, the ISBN number, the pub date, the price, pages, a little bit of, and I think I sent you a sample of a tip sheet that you might want to share with your your listeners afterwards, Dan. But that way, just the professional look of that tip sheet is going to tell any review editor immediately how professional and authentic your company is. How seriously you're taking this venture. We also, I mentioned before that we deal a lot with foreign rights sales overseas, and one book, one title authors are great, but publishers and reviewers are always interested to cover books where there's going to be more than one book, or a series of books, or that. So that's also interesting to put on that tip sheet as well. Okay.
Okay. And in other words, is it if let's just say that the author has one book but intends to do 3 or 4 in the same genre, is it advisable to list that on the tip sheet as well?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. All right. So let me go on to sort of the next step, and talk a little bit, if you would, about how you actually determine, what goes into that, what actually goes into the weekly, or I'm sorry, yeah, you're doing a weekly newsletter, and then you do a quarterly, which obviously you have much more room, and time and latitude, I suppose, if you're doing a weekly, the weekly e-newsletter versus the published print version. Can you discuss the differences, at least with your magazine, on one over the other, and the advantages for an author publisher to be in one over the other, and the types of benefits that a publisher might see from one or the other, or both of those publications? Victoria? I don't know if perhaps we've lost Victoria. Victoria, are you there? Well, it seems, folks, that we've lost Victoria, and what a shame that is. Um, and so let me go back over here. But obviously, very, very important, right? To the extent possible, to actually get get your reviews in, and hopefully we'll see Victoria back here in a moment. Hopefully she's getting reconnected here with us, because yep, she's actually gone off air. But so by the way, just so that you know, we do have a live Q&A. You should see that in a box. We're in the same area that where you're viewing this right now. We have a number of people on, and you should see at the very bottom of your screen, actually it should be I believe the bottom left-hand side, right down here somewhere, a little link, actually right on the video, that would allow you to ask questions. So if you see that there, go ahead and click it, and it'll open up a new browser for you, and you could actually then ask questions, which that's okay. That's okay, Victoria. I was just telling folks that they could ask questions if they are here live. Obviously, if you're not here live, you can't. But right down here at this the bottom, there's a little link, and it'll open up in a whole new window, and then you can just ask your questions. We have a question, by the way, from Terry Young, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But I think the pending question, Victoria, is the advantages and I suppose the disadvantages of being published in the the weekly e-zine with the quarterly print, and what makes the grade for one and maybe not the other, and why that's beneficial and advantageous for folks to even to think about.
Well, we're trying to not have there be any distinction between the print or the e version of the magazine. The e version weekly obviously opens us up to covering many, many more people and many, many more books. All of our coverage in the e newsletter and the print magazine goes automatically to our website, which gets 100,000 hits a month and is at the top of all Google searches for anything that has to do with independent press reviews. There isn't any reviews right now in the electronic version of the magazine, but as I mentioned to you earlier, we're revamping and relaunching our website June 1st with a new look and adding blogs and lists and pretty forward-thinking content there. So, there's a lot of opportunity outside of a quarterly magazine at Foreword Reviews and at any application. So trying to, I always recommend reading the magazine or reading the e-newsletter and then pitching your book according to what you see. And I've offered your clients a free subscription to the magazine with a code that I gave to you earlier. If they register or go to the website and find out exactly what we're doing, they're more prone to get covered by sending a special pitch saying, I see that you are doing something on Black History Month in February, and I think you should consider my book. Or I saw by your editorial calendar that could feature this next issue. Good, you should, those kind of.
Excellent. So one of the other things, because I think we may have lost you again here, Victoria, but and hopefully you could still hear me. But one of the other things that we promised to chat with folks about is the importance of getting book awards. Can you speak to that? And hopefully you could still hear me, where we get some information, some tips on how and why that's important, in fact. Okay. So let's see if we've got Victoria back, and looks like we've lost Victoria again. Yep. Okay. So hopefully she'll be back here. Now, Terry, I see your questions. Terry's got a couple of great questions, and assuming we get Victoria back here, I'm going to ask them. But for the benefit of those folks that might be seeing this a little later, the first question that Terry asked is, what about the difference between fiction and nonfiction in terms of success and acceptability? And also, and it looks like we've got Victoria back. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you are back here. Hopefully, you will stick with us. And then the other thing that Terry is asking is he says it looks like you need a track record before you're even considered, or we should even consider using Foreword reviews. So two questions, if you could hear me, Victoria. Can you hear me?
I can, but I didn't. I got the track record question, but I didn't get the second question.
All right. So the difference in terms of nonfiction and fiction for success and acceptability. That's the first question.
Okay. The old Foreword magazine used to be a reflection of what the independent press community was putting out, and that was primarily nonfiction and some fiction and poetry. But with the advent of ebooks and the success of fiction sales in ebooks, we have moved that ratio over to half and half fiction and half nonfiction. And to answer your second question, it is not necessary to have a track record with us. In fact, we sort of pride ourselves with trying to find independent presses who are putting out amazing books and don't have a track record. But we would like to know, you know, part of one of the subtleties of this is this a serious author? Are they going to be putting out? Are they going to be marketing and putting themselves out there to get the book sold, or was it simply a folly? You know, and when booksellers and librarians, our core readership, call to order the book and it's not available and there was only 500 copies printed, well, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Got it. Got it.
So distribution used to be super critical, that you had, you know, somebody getting you in at a wholesale level. Not so much anymore, because libraries and booksellers are going around those going around distributors and going to Amazon and Barnes & Noble to order books occasionally, and that we see that will happen more and more as the ebook industry becomes more popular.
Yeah, and I'd also like to speak to that, since you mentioned I have a lot of ebook publishers and ebook authors. What's the difference with regard to getting reviews with ebook versus a physical book?
The bookstore and the librarian wants a physical book, and so our tendency is to cover publishers who have physical books, but most of the people that we cover, you have both simultaneously published at the same time, so it's not an issue. But
okay.
the bookstore and the library, you know, of course, want a physical book to because that's what their merchandising is. That's what they're dealing with.
Right. Okay. So
we don't want to cover a book. It would really limit us by just covering people who do ebooks. We're trying to do both. A publisher who's doing both ebook and print books.
Okay. So that makes sense. So before we move on to talking about book awards and how important they are and how to get them, etc. Are any last minute or any last thoughts, concluding thoughts on getting the reviews in the first place? And essentially, I assume that everything you've said thus far applies to, or most everything that you've said thus far applies to getting reviews in the broader world as well. I mean, in other review.
That's exactly right. That's true. And you should go to all of these websites. There's something called review submission guidelines that are buried in the pages on people's websites, and that will give you an idea of what's expected at Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, Kirkus, and Foreword. Just a last note, we were primarily a trade journal that only went to bookstores and libraries, and because we saw a movement toward so many new people coming to our website, tens of thousands of people going around the bookstore and the library, that we are now a consumer magazine, that we're available on Barnes & Noble's bookstores and Books A Million and all the independents across the country on the newsstands. So that is an answer to readers going around their traditional sources of getting books, and it's important for people to be aware of that, I think.
That is really good news, actually. Okay, so any last thoughts on getting reviews, or we covered that to your satisfaction?
It feels like we covered that. We have a limit. Well, I suppose I should bring up that we have a fee for review service for the people who, number one, didn't make the cut to get into the magazine, and it's not because their book was bad. It probably was good, but we already covered 5 business books this issue, and we just couldn't fit them in. Or for people who came late to the game. They found out about getting advance reviews after their book was published. There's some fee for review services out there that will help you get a review, and again, the same thing, all of those reviews get sent to our licensing partner at Ingram, Baker & Taylor, Books A Million, Bowker's Books and Print, and that gets you in the system. So right. it's the same reviewers that are working for us on Foreword magazine. They don't even know that a person paid a fee. You get the same 450-word review as you would get in the magazine, but a lot of people need to get in the system. They need to get into Ingram. They need to get into Baker and Taylor, and this is an easy way to do that. And it's also a good way to get a manuscript, vetted in advance of the publication. Before you spend all this money printing a book, if you send it to Clarion, which is Foreword's fee for review service, in advance of the publication, you would get, might be able to get a couple of the mistakes out of there, or get some feedback on some good feedback that would improve the book.
That's actually a really good idea. I like that. Okay, cool. So let's move on to this idea of getting book awards for your books, and
Okay.
and why that's important, and how to get them. So can you sort of bring us up to speed with that?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, there's almost 1 million new books being published every year, and an awards program is a way for you to get your title-specific notice, even if it only places in a finalist competition. Award programs are designed to give books an assist or a marketing boost after the book has been published. So we're taking submissions for our awards program for books published in 2014, and we'll announce the winners in 2015, and suddenly you have another marketing opportunity, a publicity opportunity for a book that's old. Dan, you and I met at a conference that Dr. Judith Browse put on a few weeks ago called Author U, and she has an excellent web source on her website for Book of the Year Awards programs. It's a very comprehensive list of accredited programs, and I think part of the reason why book awards programs get a bad name is because there are some programs out there who are run by companies that are sort of suspicious. You shouldn't be suspicious of entry fees, but you should be careful about award programs that require you to have a membership fee to be paid prior to requesting an entry. The entry fees contribute to prizes being offered, as well as offset costs like shipping and handling and our judges' fees, and a celebration event or an announcements program like ours is going to be always held every year at the American Library Association show conference in June. And then we list our winners in a magazine, and we put them on the website, and we also give them press releases and all kinds of tools to help them get their books recognized with the award. You want to pay attention to announcement dates of awards program and try to dovetail press releases and your related fanfare with the sponsors for maximum exposure.
What do you mean? Hold on, stop there, Victoria. What do you mean by that? I'm not sure I quite understand what you just said there.
For instance, our awards program is in August, and at the end of June. And so when we announce the awards and your book is a winner of an award, you want to also at the same time have a big splash on your website and press releases and with your local newspaper, and
I get you.
In
other words, to make as much hay out of it as you can. Don't just get the reward and sort of keep it under a basket. Let the light shine, so to speak. Make as much of it as you can when you get the award, is what you're telling us.
Right. I mean, when winners and finalists are announced, it creates a renewed interest in a book that might be backlisted, or it gives a new discussion point for your press releases or blog posts and social media that could lead to interviews and other press coverage that the book has been sort of flat before. Now you have a new reason to go to town on it again. There's, most likely with awards programs, an increase in sales. There's dozens of book awards with that you can, enter and use that as, that second year after publication to help spike sales. There's many of the awards programs like ours offer you an opportunity to buy foil seals or something that will call attention to your book, which we always recommend people buy. They're like 5 cents or something, but it almost automatically ensures that the book is not going to be shelved with a spine out at the bookstore or library, but they'll feature it with a seal on the cover of the book. Whenever we have books with award seals on them at our international trade shows, it's like a magnet of agents and people coming up to the book because they're award winners. I mean, again, it's one more thing to call attention and call your title out in the chaos of all the books that are being published.
Which I think is the underlying message with actually everything we've discussed. It's essentially doing those things that give your book and in your authorship of that book the slight edge over other people in the same genre. Is essentially what you're saying.
Well,
okay.
And, you know, when you win an award too, it's so great for your team. I mean, it really validates what you've been doing and their part in the whole process. And so, you know, really that's the most important thing, is that you guys are doing good work, that each of these publishers is doing good work.
So, and then let's kind of talk about the how you, or can you, let me just put it this way, can you actually get a book award or put in for a book award year after year after year after year, or do they at some point become stale?
You can only, in fact, all of the awards programs that I know are for the year that the book was published, so you can't do it year after year after year. So this is, you brought up an important point. This is award season right now. From June until December coming up is when all of the deadline for entries are coming up, and it's important for people to pay attention. And the list, like I told you about at Judy Bryles' website, you can mark all those on the calendar, figure out what the fee is going to be, and make sure that you don't miss the deadlines. It's really not, I think, a great investment for $65 to $150 for an entry. It's worth every penny if you have a good book.
Right, and then a lot of these services, Victoria, or a lot of these awards, they don't just award one award, they award many. Or do I have that wrong?
No, that's correct. We, you know, for instance, our program has 65 categories that you can enter in. We choose one nonfiction and one fiction title to give a prize to, a $1,500 prize to. Other awards programs do best new voice, best cover, best catalogs, best. So there's a lot of options with each of these programs that might benefit the publisher.
Okay, cool. Are there any because we're coming up here on, let's see, 48 minutes since we started at the top of the hour. Are there any last minute or last words on getting book awards, and maybe answer a question that I should have asked, but for whatever reason failed to do that?
I don't think so. I just think now with the new technology that's available to authors and publishers for publicizing their books, search engine optimization and Twitter and Facebook, it's just so nice to have an award-winning status after your book title that it really will help sales and create some awareness of your book.
All right, cool. One of the things I would like to do is you mentioned giving my folks a bonus of a subscription to your magazine, correct?
Correct. And you can see in the screen in back of you the cover of our latest edition, which is that's actually a giraffe with a bird on his belly.
Okay, this one right here. I've brought it up on my screen right now.
Yep. We always feature the latest issue cover in that space, but that if you hit that turquoise bar that says subscribe now and enter your information, it'll ask you if you have a promotional code, and we've given one to you and your visitors called Foreword Gift HAL, and that will give you a year-long $19.95 value of Foreword reviews for free. And we just think it would be a nice way for your authors and publishers to keep track of what's actually happening in the trade, the kinds of books that we pay attention to, and the more educated you can be about the business, the better you're going to do with the sales of your books.
So, and again, the URL, or excuse me, the code is
Foreword, FOREWORD, gift, GIFT, HAL.
Okay.
That will let us know how many of your people signed up for it.
Excellent. And they get when they get that?
It's all ready to go. So you'll probably get an issue. We'll probably mail our current issue, which is expected from the printer tomorrow, in the mail the next week. Oh
wow. Okay. So there we go. It's up on the screen right now. And Foreword gift HAL is what goes in the coupon code when they go to subscribe here, and that gets them a year, right?
That's correct. And so I just want to, if you haven't registered with Foreword Reviews yet, it will ask you for that information first.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I really appreciate it so much, and thank you so much for taking the time, Victoria. As I said, it's been most helpful. And would you be willing to take some additional questions before we go off the air here? Would that be cool with you for a couple minutes?
Yep. And also, my email address is victoria@forewordreviews.com. In case people have questions that we haven't thought about in this hour, I'd be happy to answer them directly as well.
Okay, Victoria@forewordreviews.com. And for those folks that are here and watching, if you want to ask a question live, the place to do that is right on the screen that you are watching right now. There should be anyway a little link in the bottom the bottom left-hand corner that it'll say actually Q&A. If you open that up, it'll actually pop a different browser, and go ahead and ask your questions in that form field on the far right side, and that would be an awesome thing. This is a great opportunity, by the way, to it should be right down here, okay? Right down there somewhere.
The managing editor is still in the room if you have questions about submissions and what qualifies too.
Okay. All right. So it looks like we've gone through the questions, and all right. So thank you so much, Victoria. I really appreciate it, and Matt, I thank you. I really appreciate it as well. For those of you that are watching this later, you should see the coupon code and some of the other links that we discussed, like Judith Bryle's Book Awards page, as well as some of the handouts that Victoria has provided, and I'm going to make that available, in the members area, probably right below where you're watching right now. And let's see, we've got another question here from Martha Rose, and she says, "Will you post the code for the Foreword reviews?" Yes, I will do that. That will also be here in the members area. Okay, so that you can get that. And by the way, so it's really it's an excellent idea, by the way, to any review that you seek to actually, and Victoria had mentioned this, to go through the particular publication that you seek to get the review with, to know beforehand, what they're looking for, what their editorial style is, what types of books that they are actually reviewing. Just do your homework, okay? Don't just haul off and send in a review request without knowing what the deal is up front, which I think is really, really important. And of course, having a good book, right? Having hopefully a great book before you go in. So with that, I just want to once again thank you, Victoria, and I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. This is Daniel Hall for Selling Electrons Magazine and RealFastBook.com. Bye, everyone.